Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, I will want to talk about a very snowy and potentially extremely cold weather pattern that is brewing into the medium to long range of this part of the U.S. and into, say, mid-January. Now, if you live across the U.S., you've probably known, unless you live in some rare area that's gotten a lot of snow, it's been a pretty measly winter. It hasn't been really snowy. It hasn't. That's part of the reason why I haven't been making that many weather videos. There has been some decent-sized systems, but it looks like everything with that regard will be changing as we head into this upcoming week. So there looks like there could be a lot of snow. This is what the European shows in terms of its snowfall outlook in just the next 10 days. This is what the GFS shows in terms of its snowfall outlook in just the next 15 days, which shows even more snow. And some of the level and amount of cold, especially across the northwestern United States, which will eventually spill into the east potentially, but that's a little further out. But for now, especially the northwest, is just it could be breaking records. There could be areas that are staying in a negative double digits for the day and the night for potentially a week or more across these areas. So obviously cold for these areas here isn't rare, but the amount of cold that we could be getting is going to be potentially something that could be a record shattering. Obviously we're going to be definitely seeing the biggest storms of the winter season thus far yet. That doesn't say much. We haven't seen much in terms of winter storms this year, but definitely the biggest ones in maybe even a few years, which I guess adds a little bit more context to what I'm trying to say here. There could be a lot of activity, which for people like me that like tracking the weather is very fun, but obviously for people that have to deal with it, it's not as much fun. And say they don't really like the snow, but I know that a lot of people are craving for some snow, at least in areas that haven't seen any. But yeah, this amount of snow that we could be getting in some of these areas will definitely put the limits, test the limits of many people. So let's start off by looking at the GFS. So in a short range, we don't have much going on. The pattern will still be kind of transitioning from this really mellow, mildish pattern. It hasn't been too warm recently. It was really warm earlier, around Christmas time. Now it's kind of cooled off, but no big storms. This will change. We are seeing snow across the southwest now. This will spread into the southern kind of plains of the United States. So northern Texas, the panhandles of Oklahoma, Texas, southern Kansas could pick up a little bit of snow. New Mexico, Colorado, there are winter weather advisories out for that. A little bit of snow across the Midwest, though it will have troubles developing into anything big as this system really skits off pretty fast towards the east and then it works its way up. So yes, that does mean a lot of snow potentially for the northeast into this upcoming weekend, which isn't too far out. Notice New York City, a lot of these big cities that typically are on the rain snow line will be yet again on the rain snow line with the system. It looks as if, say, Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, you guys will be more seeing snow, solid snow. But yeah, Philadelphia, northern New Jersey, you guys unfortunately are probably going to be dealing with a rain snow mix, which is kind of pretty much what you guys are used to at this point. Notice that this thing does spin off and it strengthens as it pulls away, so it's not going to be a blockbuster system, one that you guys probably haven't seen in many years, but definitely the biggest one of this year. And maybe I forget if there were any big storms last year, because some of these amounts are going to be pretty significant. If you look at the total snowfall and I zoom in onto the northeastern United States, it could be pretty significant, especially for Boston. Definitely some areas will be picking up over a foot, maybe even close to a foot and a half across these areas. New York City depends on where that rain snow line sets up, but just north it could easily be 6 to 10 inches, and in the mountainous areas definitely well over a foot and a half. That's a GFS. The European, very similar system setup. So notice it first drops that snowfall across Kansas into Texas, New Mexico, and then it takes it off into the northeast. And while it does that, yes, there will be quite a bit of snow across. You can see again Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and interesting, the European shows quite a bit more snow for Boston. It shows a lot of areas approaching, I would say 12 to 15 inches there. Interestingly, also, it does show quite a bit more snow into the upstate areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, while the GFS doesn't show as much. So we'll have to, see for those details which one holds out to be true. But again, this system is still a little bit away, not terribly, but within 80 hours. So it's starting to get into that short range out kind of time frame, so the details will begin to become more clear day by day. But that's not the main news story. That's just a little precursor, as significant as that may seem for this winter season thus far. What we do see is a strong northwesterly system that makes its way in a fashion that allows a lot of this cold air to slide into the rest of the United States. So notice, this system, it doesn't come directly from the Pacific waters where it's nice and warm. It kind of comes off hugging the U.S. coast. It's kind of like an Alaskan low, if you will. And notice this drops a lot of snow potentially for the Sierra Nevada, Utah, Sierra Nevada, Nevada itself, Utah, Idaho, Arizona, New Mexico. And this thing then dips down pretty far close to the Gulf of Mexico. So this thing not only has a lot of cold air, but it also goes on pretty far to the south. So it picks up a ton of moisture and allows it to become a really strong system. And you can see the GFS really showing a monster here, potentially delivering a lot of severe weather threats across the south with how much moisture this thing could pick up and just how much instability it will bring. Again, this will be early next week, so Monday, Tuesday. Storm Prediction Center already for next Monday has a slight risk area for a lot of these coastal cities. A lot of people living there, so that's definitely a big threat. And notice that this thing spins off and, yeah, potentially drops a lot of rain across the northeast. Same areas that could be getting snow this weekend, so that could definitely cause a little bit of chaos with flooding and whatnot. Good news is it won't be terribly cold right behind this system for the northeast, so it will allow things to dry out relatively peacefully without it becoming bitter cold for no apparent reason. But yeah, notice that even after that system, which by the way, the details are still fuzzy on that, it does look like the European and Canadian all agree on the relative track of this system, but obviously things will have to be, and I'll go into details on that in just a second. But I want to show you first that the GFS continues showing a very snowy pattern, that constant northwesterly flow with not only the cold air, but also the snow. And you can see storm after storm, storm after storm. And again, it continues delivering snow across very similar areas that have seen snow. Boom, yet another system. Boom, yet another system. So, and the cold air, you can see, remains very, very stubborn. Towards the end, maybe the GFS showing some sort of a breakout right into more of a kind of a tropical flow of moisture into the Pacific, which would allow some warm air to infiltrate in. But again, that's pretty far out, and to at least then, it looks like a very, very snowy pattern, which is marked by the total snowfall the GFS shows here. So the European, with this, with that big system, right? I showed you that little, I guess not little, but that northeast system, which comparing it to that second one is going to be pretty little. There it is, boom, it slides off the coast. Again, European showing some very heavy snowfall rates with that, so that's still going to be definitely something we'll have to watch for. But right on the heels of that, boom, there's that system, very similar to the GFS, pretty close to the Gulf of Mexico. Again, a lot of moisture as a result, streaming into the cold air, and yeah, boom, we could see some ridiculously heavy snowfall rates across the north. And again, the European, there are some slight differences. It shows the system being a little less disorganized, or a little less organized than the GFS, so it allows, it's still a massive show of force from Mother Nature, but it allows some more awkward snowfall amounts to fall, meaning you could see there could be some more mixing, more sleet, wherever this does end up going. And again, obviously, we don't even know where the exact track of this will be, but again, for being 140, 50 hours out, what it shows here compared to what the GFS has, let me go back to you and show what it shows around that. It's a pretty similar system. I mean, we've had systems that look completely different 80 hours out, let alone 150 hours out. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily it will continue to be like that. It could definitely switch to being something dumb again and, completely disagree with each other. We do get that sometimes. That's obviously very frustrating, as you can tell by my word of use there. But hopefully it doesn't, and we will be able to see this from far away. And I'm not saying that because I necessarily want it to stay the same. Obviously, I'm in Chicago, so I do want snow. I'm a snow lover. But the thing is that if it changes last second, it just leaves so much mess. It leaves people unprepared. It leaves people mad and frustrated why they couldn't predict it. So it's always nice when you have a forecastable system. And so far, the models have been doing a lot better job with this system than they have done with some of the other ones. I guess that's a good thing. It's a predictable pattern. But yeah, some of the consequences from this will be pretty interesting, as a lot of cold air, and you can see the European, just like the GFS, shows continued snow systems. Important to note, the GFS only takes us out to 380 hours, while the European takes us out to 240, so much less further out. But still, even with that being said, the European shows quite a bit of snow in that time frame of the next 10 days across the West, the Midwest, the Northeast, so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. I won't go into specific details yet with the second system because, well, it's just a little bit too far out, right? Let's get a few more days in between us and that system. Let's shave away a few more days between us and that system, and then I'll start talking about snowfall amounts. Canadian, by the way, another model I like to look at, very similar as well. Has some differences, shows a lot more snow for the northeast, say. It doesn't doesn't allow as much warm air to stream into the northeast there. But overall, still very same, and it shows an active pattern as well behind that. Another thing I really want to show you that's really fascinating, if not even more impressive than that snow, is the extreme cold that will be coming in after this. So for next 100 to 200 hours, nothing too incredible in terms of temperature anomalies. There will be some warm, some cold, depending on how exactly the systems unfold. But look what starts happening across the northwest and southwestern Canada. I mean, these could be record-breaking cold temperatures. We start seeing yeah, literally readings that are off the chart. Look at those colors right there. Boom, that's almost negative 28 degrees Celsius below the average. So if your average is 10 Fahrenheit, you'll be seeing negative 18. And yeah, this could last for a while. Look, it's stubborn. It hugs the northwest coast there for a while. Now it does probably move away at one point before, but that's not before it spills into the into kind of the Midwest there. And yeah, I want to show you some of these thermometer readings because they will be nothing short of amazing. Look at that. Wyoming during the night to negative 23. During the day, nice and warm, negative 8, 11. Obviously, these areas aren't foreign to cold temperatures, but this is definitely something that could bring a lot of these areas down to their knees if we do see such cold air, which we'll have to wait and see if we do because it's still a little bit far out, but based on what the models are showing and the confidence they have, I would not be shocked. I mean, look at those temperatures. That is incredible. That is nothing short of incredible. Yeah, so this is an 18, that's negative 18, negative 30. Yeah, just unbelievable. Some of these temperatures here, negative 40, negative 34, and that's just air temperature. Wind chill, assuming there will be wind, it, could quickly get into negative 60. And pretty much unbearable to be outside for any prolonged period of time. That's still a little bit far out. We'll have to see exactly how that unfolds. I could show you the EPS members. So this is the weather model website that I use to track individual ensemble members. So this is basically 50 individual members of the European family, and I have right now 15-day snowfall set up. And I could just click on the different outcomes. You can see most, if not all, show a very snowy scenario for the United States in a very similar fashion. Now some show a little bit more towards the south, some show a little bit more towards the north. There's obviously differences, but overall a pretty consistent pattern, and we aren't seeing huge variations, which we like to see. We like to see consistency. You can see some show a ton of snow across Missouri, Illinois there. That's almost 30, 40 inches, and then others, more realistic amounts probably. Well, this one shows a little bit on the other side, a lot less. I would say probably, even like this is a lot of snow. This is like 1.5 feet in the next 10 days, so that's a lot of snow. We'll have to wait and see whether or not that happens and what exactly scenario unfolds. But it's definitely looking interesting, especially with those temperatures, guys, across the Northwest, and if that spills into the rest of the United States. I could show you the observations, which this is observed snowfall for this season thus far. And you can see that while, yes, some areas have seen quite a bit of snow across Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, for the mountainous areas, that's not crazy, and really anywhere elsewhere across the Northeast, Chicago area, Indiana, Detroit area, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Des Moines, Lincoln, Nebraska, Omaha. I mean, it hasn't been really much of a snowy season at all. Now, forget the South. The South hasn't seen anything, but even the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, just really not a snowy season. So this is definitely going to be a shock to the system. The plains have seen a little bit more of snow, but still really not incredible for some of the snowfall amounts they sometimes get. But yep, we'll definitely see an uptick in these snowfall observations here in the next week and a half. So we'll have to wait and see and see how things unfold. But it's definitely looking very interesting. I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. For now, that's basically it. I hope you got the point. Definitely a lot of things to watch for, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.